Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. DB333, and welcome back to the new campaign trail. Now, last time we were here together, we hopped into Divided States, which was quite a bit of fun. We hopped in on the GOP side, and after the tragedy that happened with Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, we hopped in as the man, the myth, the legend, Doug motherfucking Burgum. And we got the Burgumentum to carry us all the way to White House, almost carrying New York, which I thought was quite funny. Now, unfortunately, we have to move on. But I figured we'd go ahead and move on with a similar amount of momentum and bring Carnegie onto Canadian politics and the Conservative Party. Now, this is 2025 Canada. We've been playing a lot of recent mods, or recent election mods based off of recent elections, so I figured we'll go ahead and transfer things over to the Great White North with 2025 Canada. Now I'm going to be playing as Mark Carney today. If this video gets 10 likes, we'll do a little modest goal. I'll go ahead and hop in to the conservative side of things and give that a shot. So, if you want to go ahead and do that, just go ahead and, or if you want to see that, show so in the likes. Also, feel free to subscribe and check out my other content while you're here. And yeah, let's get to it. As the 2025 election approaches, the situation appears dire for the Liberal Party of Canada. After 9 years of governance, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's popularity has waned. Dissatisfaction with the economic condition of the country and Trudeau's scandals have left the Liberal Party polling at half the support of a rival Conservative Party, barely above the left-wing New Democratic Party. Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, appears poised to become the next Prime Minister of Canada. However, the winds are changing. Donald Trump's shock election win combined with his trade policy puts him on a collision course with the Canadian government. There are rumblings within the Liberal Party to push Trudeau out and seek out a new leader. Will Poilievre and the Conservatives cruise to victory, or will the Liberals succeed in making a comeback for the ages? Now, this scenario is made by R. Baldwin, inspired by the Diefenbaker mod from 57. If you guys want to check that out, or any of the Dutch elections, let me know. I'd be very willing to check them out. I want to do some more international stuff. I need to do more new campaign trail stuff in general. It's just kind of life slapping me around, really. Anyway, we're going to go hop in as the Liberal Party of Canada. The Liberal Party of Canada is the oldest Canadian political party, founded in 1867, a big tent centrist party. It is referred to as the natural governing party of Canada, having held power for the majority of the country's history. The Liberal Party has held power for the last 9 years under the leadership of Justin Trudeau. During this time, the party has been responsible for responses to trade disputes during the first Trump term, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the cost of living crisis. Furthermore, it has enacted progressive policies of legalization of cannabis and medically assisted death, climate action, the expansion of subsidized childcare, and the establishment of a national dental and pharmaceutical programs. However, the party has seen a precipitous decline in support over the past few years, coinciding with the rapid increase in the cost of living. Will the Liberal Party be able to regain the trust of Canadians? Well, we'll need one man to do that. Mark Carney. Born in Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, Mark Carney went on to earn a PhD in economics from the University of Oxford, worked for 13 years at Goldman Sachs, then returned to public service in Canada. He served as Deputy Governor of the Bank of Canada, then as Deputy Minister of Finance, then as Governor of the Bank of Canada, where he served during the Great Financial Crisis. He was then recruited as the first non-British Governor of the Bank of England, where he managed the aftermath of Brexit. Currently, Carney heads the board for Brookfield Asset Management, a company managing over $1 trillion in assets, as involved in many other companies. However, he's increasingly dipped his toes into Canadian politics, becoming an economic advisor for Prime Minister Trudeau. There were rumors that Trudeau was courting him for a more direct role in government. Well, let's go ahead and check it out. So we're going to look at the map right now, and it's looking pretty dire, I'm not going to lie. We're looking at 23 seats right now. The NDP is looking to get more seats than us Even the French Canadians are going to get more seats than us. Tragic indeed. But the Green Party is ahead in 3 seats. The Greens in Canada. Look at that. Well, let's try to go ahead and bring things back down to earth. December 2024. Chrystia Freeland, the Minister of Finance, has resigned. She publishes her resignation letter, which is harshly critical of Prime Minister Trudeau. Her resignation was prompted by an upcoming cabinet reshuffle in which Trudeau intended to install you as the new finance minister. The offer remains open. Do you accept Trudeau's offer and join his cabinet? Well, I will not join the Trudeau cabinet. The Prime Minister is currently fighting through a political firestorm, and I can't risk getting caught up with it. Good call. The pressure on Trudeau continues to build, and he announces his resignation in the new year. Does that do anything for us? That boosts us up a little bit. January 2025. Justin Trudeau announced his resignation as Prime Minister and Liberal leader in the face of ever-mounting pressure. This is your chance to run for leadership of the Liberal Party, but most Canadians are unfamiliar with you. How will you introduce yourself to Canadians? Well, I'm going to try something different. Instead of a political interview, I'll go on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Ah, yes, famously apolitical Jon Stewart. Going on an American show nets you some derision, but many Canadians watch more American TV than Canadian, and this allows you to reach them. Well, look at that. We're coming up already in the polls, which is quite nice. We went from 20-something to 52. We're pulling back up slowly but surely. We just have to put our elbows up and get to it. Anyway. January 2025. United States President Donald Trump has floated the idea of Canada becoming the 51st American state. What do you make of it? Well, Trump is threatening our sovereignty as an independent nation. We cannot let it stand. If he continues on this path, we should consider our military cooperation. Reconsider our military cooperation, rather, and seek other allies. This is a strong answer, but risks escalating the situation. February 2025. President Trump has announced 25% tariffs on all Canadian products, which he justifies by claiming that Canadian border enforcement is allowing mass numbers of people to come in and fentanyl to come in. How will you respond? Well, we need to retaliate with dollar-for-dollar targeted counter tariffs. Trump is a bully, and we can't give him an inch, otherwise he will come back asking for more. To help you ride the wave of Canadian patriotism sweeping through the country. How we doing now? 86, look at that. We are coming back. The Green Party is also down a seat. I think it's the Kirchner seat over here. Yeah, Kitchener, rather. I forget the seat. I forget what everything is called. I'm just kind of looking and not along. Anyway, Brookfield Asset Management has decided to move its headquarters from Toronto to New York. What was your involvement in this decision? Well, the changes are technical in nature, and with respect to jobs, Brookfield has clearly stated that Canadian operations were not impacted. This is a non-issue. Nevertheless, this still leaves Canadians feeling concerned. March 2025. What leverage does Canada have against the U.S. for the upcoming trade war and negotiations? We are their biggest supplier of electricity, their biggest supplier of fertilizer, their biggest supplier of aluminum. They are dependent on us for trade, and we could consider putting some export restrictions. Aluminum and fertilizer producers are worried that they will pay the price for the trade war. However, this stance does make you look strong. Look at that. As the Liberal leadership election nears its conclusion, what is your primary message to Liberal members as you compete with other Liberal leadership contenders? Which is Chrystia Freeland, Government House Leader Karina Gould, and businessman Frank Bayless. Look at that. I'll emphasize change. I'll make it clear that I want to turn the country around, just distancing myself from Trudeau and his record. You're leaning on an outsider image. This is refreshing in many, but many may disappoint those who supported many of Trudeau's reforms. Congratulations, you've won the leadership of the Liberal Party. You'll soon be sworn as the 24th Prime Minister of Canada. Your party is experiencing a rebound in the polls from the lows of the political crisis in December. Progressives and disaffected Liberals are rallying behind your campaign, as you are now the only hope for Canada to avoid the Conservative rule. Even conservative-leaning voters are giving your Liberals a second look. I, Mark Carney, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Prime Minister. It's time to build. Let's see how we're doing now. 133 to 162. Look at that. The NDP is kind of slowly imploding. Green Party's not doing well. The Bloc is still hanging strong. Well, let's see if we can try to counteract that. Before calling a snap election to capitalize on your fresh image and legitimize your position, you have a chance to enact some policies before heading into the election. Well, I will reverse the increases on the capital gains tax and abolish the consumer carbon tax. This ends two flagship policies of the Trudeau administration and undermines the Conservatives' messaging against you. There we go. How's that doing off the bat? We're already bringing the Conservatives down to earth with that. Doing a lot better in the Toronto suburbs. Are these? I think these are the Toronto suburbs. What are these? No, I think these are also the... This is just a more zoomed-in version of the Toronto suburbs over here. Well, this includes the Niagara stuff, it looks like. Okay. This is Quebec City? No, that's Montreal. This is also Montreal. Very confusing. This is Quebec, okay. Halifax over here. We got Charlottetown. Home of the famous band Always. Shout out Always. We're doing quite well over in Newfoundland over here. We could pull in a little bit more in New Brunswick and the Halifax area. We're doing decent in Vancouver as well. Let's see if we can't pull things back up. Federal election kicking off will be the main theme of your campaign. Elbows up. Defense mechanism when playing hockey. There we go. Canada never, ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form. Trump is trying to break us so America can own us. But this is Canada. We decide what happens here. Never. 51. There's a strong message that can help rally voters under your banner as Canadians become increasingly wary of the American threat. There we go. Well, where will we focus your effort as the campaign begins? Let's see, Ottawa's... Carleton is over here, which, it's funny that we're ahead. I still remember where I was when I found out that Olivier lost his seat. That was so immensely funny. As someone who's not directly invested in Canadian politics at all, who was just watching from a distance, just the fact that he lost his seat was so incredibly funny. Anyhow. Let's go to the Maritimes, win them back for the Liberal Party. The Conservatives, led by Pierre Poilievre, I always forget how to pronounce his name, Poilievre, have maintained a commanding lead in the polls for over a year. What will be your main angle of attack on the Conservative leadership? Well, Poilievre is a type of politician who's a lifelong politician, worships the market, and sees opportunity and tragedy to push an agenda of cutting taxes and taking away the social safety net. This line of attack contrasts Poilievre's experience, or lack thereof, with your own impressive qualifications. There we go. As Canada is a bilingual country with a significant French-speaking minority, political leaders are expected to campaign in both official languages. However, your own French is rusty. To what extent will you campaign in France? Well, I'll put every effort into making my campaign bilingual. I'll not hold back from speaking French at rallies, even in English Canada. I'll give as many French interviews as possible. French Canadians are glad you're making an effort. This does alienate some Anglophones, though. Well, womp womp. I don't know what to tell them. We have an election to win. And we are already winning it. I think it's 172, we need seat-wise to prevail. How are we doing overall? Edmonton. We're ahead in this seat over here. We might be able to win this Riverbend seat. Potentially. In Calgary, we have a seat we could win. Maybe 3 here. But I know Alberta's pretty deep red, so we'll see there. We'll see about out here in Saskatoon as well. Which one is it? Is this Manitoba or is this Manitoba? No, it's BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba? Which one is Manitoba? This is Manitoba. Okay, this is Saskatchewan. That's right. And then Quebec, Ontario, Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island. Is this one New Brunswick? I don't know. The fact that I know anything about Canada is probably impressive in and of itself compared to some of my fellow Americans, so I'll just go ahead and leave it there right now. So, the NDP, the Bloc, and the Greens compete with you for progressive voters. How will you deal with them? Well, I will make this election a personality battle between myself and Polivier. I will hammer that he cannot be trusted to stand with Trump. Our very sovereignty is at stake. Progressive voters flock to you, driven by their fear of Trump. There we go. How will you distinguish yourself from former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? Well, we share values, but as liberals, we must focus both on economic growth and fairness. Trudeau focused too much on one side of that equation. I will be different and bring a laser focus on the economy. This balances distancing yourself from Trudeau on the main issue concerning Canadians, while assuring the base that you're still aligned with them. How we doing? 185. Look at that. That is beautiful. We're going to have some issues in some of these suburb seats. I think are going to tighten up. Niagara might be close potentially, but I'll get there. What will be your approach to media appearances? Well, I will give all the usual interviews with the press, also go on business-oriented podcasts and cultural media to make a wide appeal. This successfully gets the message across to the usual crowds, as well as reaching people who wouldn't normally hear your message. There we go. We've recruited a number of star candidates who have chosen to run under the Liberal banner. Is there any candidate you would like to highlight? Well, I'll talk about Priti Oprani Martin, our candidate for Calgary's. She's the daughter of Deepak Obrahe, a lifelong conservative who held the riding for nearly 20 years. Our campaign is about bringing people together and unite our country. Together, we will build Canada strong. Calgary has been a conservative stronghold forever. Hopefully she can make that change. Largest city in Alberta, home to the headquarters of many oil companies of major cities in Canada, it's most supportive of a conservative party. Good to know. Aside from the official debates, TVA, a major Quebec-based French-language television broadcast network, runs a French leaders debate every election. Will you attend? Well, the network is charging $75,000 for my attendance. My campaign can easily pay for this, but I will refuse to attend on principle. Debates and media appearances should not be bought and sold. Period. This makes sense as seeing as this is the first time a network has charged candidates to debate. How are we doing? 202. Look at that. Oh my god. We got the Carney momentum going. Reporting's coming in that Paul Chiang, the Liberal MP and candidate for Markham Unionville, made a joke that suggests it turning in a conservative candidate over to the Chinese consulate in exchange for bounty. He's apologized for the comment, calling it deplorable. How will he handle the situation? While I can't allow it to rail the campaign, I'll quickly drop his candidacy for Markham Unionville and nominate Peter Yuen instead. Paul Chiang understands and bows out gracefully. However, the media needle Peter Yuen for his ties to the Chinese community organizations linked with the Chinese government. Well, they can't win, can you? The economy is a major theme of this election. What will be your main economic message? Well, we are masters in our own home. I have a plan for free trade within Canada and expediting major economic projects. I will also use public investment to catalyze private investment into building Canada strong. In these economically challenging times, this is what Canadians want to hear. Well, while we were at Brookfield, most of the funds you managed were registered to a Bermuda address, allowing the company to avoid $5.3 billion in taxes. Is this use of tax havens ethical? Well, I will be releasing a detailed plan on how we will close tax loopholes and ensure everyone pays their fair share. This concrete response helps lessen the blow. Well, there we go. How are we doing? 201 right now. Not bad. The NDP is kind of struggling out here, aren't they? We're also struggling in some of these peak states. I think being able to visit in this mod would be nice. Do some visits to some of these ridings. That's a balancing thing. I kind of understand that, but it would be nice. How's May doing? Oh, she's holding on by a pretty decent margin. Well, healthcare is always an important issue in Canadian elections. How will we manage healthcare if elected? Well, we need more doctors and more nurses. I will push for licensing reform to allow medical professionals to practice anywhere in Canada and make it easier for those with foreign credentials to become licensed. I will protect existing healthcare programs and will continue to expand the National Dental Care Program. This is what your supporters want to hear. There we go. Crime is on the mind of many voters, with some losing faith in the justice system. What will you emphasize? Well, you can't be tough on crime if you're not tough on guns. We need to continue the gun buyback programs and strengthen border enforcement to prevent guns from entering our country. By shifting the discussion to gun control, you contrast yourself favorably against the Conservatives. However, some policy wonks do criticize the buyback program as ineffective. Oh, shush. As the campaign approaches its midpoint, where will we focus your efforts? Let's go to Victoria. I'll meet with Premier Eby and talk about our shared priorities. Victoria. Vancouver Island. It's over here, is that not? Yep, look at that. Yeah, we got 2 seats here that we're nearing in on possibly flipping this one. See, if I had visits enabled, I would be visiting the shit out of these places. Canada's welcomed a number of immigrants in recent years. What will be your immigration policy? Well, current immigration levels are unsustainable and put a strain on housing, infrastructure, and public services. Place a cap on temporary residents and reduce permanent resident admissions to ease that strain. This addresses most concerns about immigration. The issue fades into the background. How are we doing? 199. It's tightening a little bit more for the Conservatives. Well, only slightly so, but still. We're hanging out pretty well in Niagara, looks like. Voters always like a good tax cut. Do you have any plans for tax cuts? Well, my plan includes a well-deserved tax cut to the middle class, along with the lowest tax bracket to 14%. This balances cutting taxes with fiscal responsibility. And we lost a riding as a result of that. I can't believe this. SMH my head. They want their taxes high, I swear. Well, housing has become increasingly expensive, now out of reach for the average Canadian. What is your approach to housing? Well, we have a massive housing shortage. You know what else is massive? The effort we need to do. We need to throw everything we can at this issue, including working with municipalities to relax zoning bylaws, investing to catalyze the private sector into action, and exploring ways to increase construction productivity, such as modular housing, and cutting the tax burden on home builders. These commitments to tackling the housing crisis make many young people give you another look. There we go. Canada's kind of weird. I guess you're kind of seeing a little bit in America, but not to the same degree, where a lot of the, well, not really in America, with the, I guess more for younger people than the older people, but the older people in the election went more to the Liberals and more young people went to Conservatives, which is a bit of the opposite trend that you would expect with the stereotype of young people being supposed to be more left-wing and such. That's interesting, not to say the least. Many concerned with the size of federal government debt. What will be your fiscal approach? Well, spend less, invest more. I'll emphasize making a distinction between operating and capital budgets. Pledge to balance the operating budget by the end of my term. This gives you room to maneuver in making large investments while still making a clear commitment to financial responsibility. Israel and Palestine continue to show up in the headlines. What will you say on the issue? Well, Israel must allow humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, support an arms embargo, and will work with our national partners to work towards a two-state solution. This is a standard, moderate response on the issue. Well, there we go. How are we doing seat-wise? It's flipping around a little bit. We're still pretty decently ahead. I think this is... I shouldn't be complaining too much. I think this is still the biggest majority a Liberal candidate will have won by. But I want more. I wish I had the visits enabled. See, the Conservatives are prevailing over here in places like Edmonton Riverbank, Calgary. Oh, actually, we're winning Calgary Center, but Calgary McKnight. What was a major Canadian export and major industry of the western provinces? Would you support the construction of additional pipelines? Yes, I'll work with provinces and First Nations, simplify the approval process, and use emerging powers to streamline the federal side of that equation. This satisfies both jurisdictional concerns and oil-producing regions' desire to expand their exports. What's your plan for the Canadian Armed Forces? Well, with the threats from down south, it's become clear we must become more self-reliant for our defense. I'll cancel cooperation in the F-35 program and launch a review of all procurement agreements with the U.S. We'll aim to maximize domestic procurement and cooperate with the Rearm Europe plan. This ruffles some feathers in the U.S. and triggers a Trump rant. The move helps bolster your anti-American credentials. Very nice. The public service has grown substantially over recent years and has been targeted by the Conservatives. How will you address this? I'll attack the Conservatives' further plans to cut the public service, while quietly including similar cuts in my fiscal plan. Your gambit works. Public servants flock to your campaign as they fear Polivier government, and the size of your cuts in your own plan go unquestioned. Well, I wish people would question it less somehow, because I need those fucking seats. Well, 2 official leaders' debates are held, one in French and one in English. What is your strategy going to the debates? Well, I will stay cool and collected, focusing on fending off attacks from my opponents. You start off a little nervous, but you manage to hold your own. And there we go. How's that doing? We lost writings from that. This is a load of barnacles. The election nears its conclusion. Will you refocus your campaign appearances? I'll focus my efforts broadly across the country. How did that work? We're losing seats. This is bullshit. It's 2 days before Election Day, and a deadly attack on a Filipino street festival in Vancouver has left 11 dead and dozens injured. How do you react? Well, I'll cancel my campaign events and fly Vancouver to offer my condolences to the victims and their families. It's a standard non-political response to a tragedy like this. Well, it's the day before the election. What's your final message to Canadians? How are we looking right now? 180! What the fuck happened? What? Are you shitting me? We're still going to get a majority, but still. Oh, my friends, love is better than anger. Hope is better than fear. Optimism is better than despair. So let's be loving, hopeful, and optimistic, and we will change the world. A touching homage of late Jack Layton's last letter to Canadians. Good luck tomorrow. Alright, here we go. It's coming in pretty good for us right now. I'm trying to remember the seats to keep an eye on. Over the seats that we are supposed to keep an eye on in our timeline that we're going to help determine how things are going. I think this was one of them. That flipped to the Liberals, so that's a good sign. And we've already won. Keep an eye on Niagara over there. 182. Got a couple seats in Calgary to keep an eye on. We have these couple ridings that are still out to be called. Well, there we go. Oh, that was the seat with the controversy, Markham Unionville. Looks like we prevailed there. Newmarket Aurora, we barely lost. Well, you know what? 187 to 130 to 5 to 20 to 1 to 0. PBC keeps losing. Look at that. Only one seat in Calgary. One seat in Edmonton. None in Saskatoon or Regina. But we got an outright majority, which is pretty nice. We got 187 to 130. There we go. A few months ago, the Liberal Party was down in the dumps, and electoral defeat was all but certain. Despite the Herculean task of bringing back a party from death's door, you went for it. With your experienced background and disciplined campaign, you pulled through. Not only did you beat Poilievre, you defeated him in his own constituency of Carleton and won a majority government. Your premiership will not be an easy one. You have a trade war fight against President Trump, a housing crisis to resolve, and a sluggish economy to revive. Canadians have high hopes for you. Don't let them down. The majority of the House of Commons, you'll have an easier time passing your reforms and can count on being able to serve out your full 4-year term. But don't get complacent. You still need to collaborate with the provinces, First Nations, and the business community to make your vision reality. One wrong step can bleed your goodwill away. But for now, you've won. Now you can celebrate, but tomorrow the work begins to build Canada strong. There we go. Let's look at the closest states. Newmarket was decided by about less than 60 votes. Look at that. Chicoumi-le-Fjord. Don't know where that is, but less than 50 people decided that one. Simcoe, about 100. Markham Unionville, about 150. Richmond, Athabasca, about 300 there. And Niagara South, about 500. We should have thrown those 500 fucking votes over the falls. I mean, I don't believe in election interference. Don't listen to me. Anyway, that was it for now, my friends. Like I said, if I get 10 likes on this video, I'll go ahead and check out the conservative side. That's going to be it for now, though. Thanks always for watching, my friends. My name is Mr. Dogboat333. Like, so you like. If not, leave a dislike. Hey, comments or feedback, leave them in the comment section below. I read all comments again. And do appreciate any feedback you might have for me. The sub button and notification bell to keep up to date with uploads as they come out. And yeah, I'm going to leave things there for now. Thanks always for watching, my friends. My name has been Mr. Dogboat333. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye now.